Welcome to this eLearn security training video lesson on Metasploit Basic Usage Part 2. In this video, we will see how powerful Metasploit is once we exploit and gain access to remote systems. For the purpose of this video, a backdoor has already been installed on a Windows 10 system. We will be using this backdoor in order to execute commands from a Meterpreter session we have previously initiated. Here is our terminal windows with the Meterpreter session already up and running. The first thing we can do before exploring its options and features is to check its help manual. We can do this by running the help command inside the Meterpreter session. As we can see, Metasploit returns all the available options. This list is going to be our basis. We will trigger it each time we would like to run a specific command. The first thing that we want to see is how we can navigate between Meterpreter sessions. For example, let's suppose we are in a session, but we want to go back into the MSF console in order to use the other Metasploit features. Of course, we don't want to close the connection with the exploited machine. To do this, Meterpreter offers the background command. The way it works is very simple. We just have to run it, and we will get back into the MSF prompt. As we can see, we are back in the MSF console. As you can imagine, the reverse is also possible. Suppose we have a session in background and now we want to get back in it. We can do this with the sessions command. If we run sessions with no options, Metasploit lists all the available sessions. Notice that each session has an ID, which will be used to specify the session we want to interact with. Right now we only have one session, and we can interact with it by running the following command: session-i followed by the session ID. As we can see, we are once again in the Meterpreter session. Indeed, our prompt changes. Once interacting with a remote machine, we should start getting some information about it. The first command we will use here is the ifconfig. Ifconfig returns the networking information of the compromised machine. As we can see, we are able to gather the IP address, the MAC address, and other information of each network interface of the remote system. This helps us get a clearer image of the remote network. Another popular command used to reveal even more information about the target machine is sysinfo. It does not require any arguments, which makes its execution very simple. As we can see, we are able to find information such as the installed operating system, the architecture, the language, the domain, and the active users. Such information is really useful, and we encourage you to note them down during a real penetration test. A big advantage of Meterpreter is the ability to use Unix-like commands to execute similar tasks on every operating system. This means that even if the exploited machine is a Windows machine, we can use commands such as ls, cd, cat, and so on in order to list directories and files, browse folders, read files, and more. Here we can see the commands mentioned previously, and moreover, we can find other commands which will be used later on in this video. Please notice that Meterpreter displays the commands with a very useful structure. It splits them into subcategories and lists them according to the category they belong. For instance, we can see that the sysinfo command we previously used is listed under System Commands. Let's see some examples. Here, for example, we can navigate to the desktop folder and then list all of the files and folders stored in it. And as we can see, there's a file named vacation.txt. Let's try to inspect this document. To do this, we can use the cat command followed by the file name that we want to inspect. As we can see here, the file contains information like destinations, flight numbers, emails, and more. Another useful option offered by Meterpreter is the ability to transfer files between the host and the vulnerable machine. We will use two commands in order to achieve this. The first command is download, and it allows us to download files from the target machine to our machine. For instance, if we want to download the file just discovered, we have to run download followed by the file path. Keep in mind to replace single slashes with double slashes. Here we are. We now have the file vacation.txt on our machine. The second command is upload. Now, instead of storing the files in our machine, we will send one. The command is very similar to the previous one. We just need to type upload followed by the file we would like to upload and then specify the destination path. Notice that in the destination path, single slashes should be replaced with double slashes again. For this example, we will upload a file called clickme.exe in the victim's desktop. As we can see, if we list the files once again, Click Me is there. The commands we have just seen can be very useful, but Metasploit doesn't stop here. The next command we will use is edit, which allows us to edit a file by using a text editor. Let's see how it works. We will use the edit command against the previous file. Here, we will change one of the email addresses with a fake one that we currently own. As we can see, the file has been successfully edited, and we can now save it and exit the editing. The next command we will see is execute. Execute can be used to run programs and tasks on the exploited machine. For example, let's see how we can run the command prompt. To do this, we type execute followed by the -f option, and then the program we would like to run, which in this case is cmd.exe. Also, we will add the -i to interact with the process we're going to run and the -H options to run processes hidden from the victim's view. If we don't specify this, the victim will see a new command prompt window on his screen. As we can see, we are now interacting with the Windows command prompt. Notice that the execute command can be used to run any software. This means that once we are on the remote machine, we can upload a file and then execute it. Metasploit offers another option that allows us to automatically run and interact with the victim command prompt. To do this, we can use the shell command. As we can see, we are again using the command prompt. A very useful option we can also use from Interpreter is search. Search allows us to look up specific files or folders inside the vulnerable machine. Let's see an example. With this command, we will be looking for files named secret. As we specify the wildcard character, we tell Metasploit to look for every possible file extension. The -f parameter is used to specify the string name we would like to search for. After a while, a file called secret.txt has been discovered. Let's use the edit command to see its contents. As we can see, the file contains a password. Remember to write down all of your findings, since they may be needed during the next steps. The next feature we will use allows us to run Interpreter scripts. Scripts can be used for different purposes, such as escalate privileges, gather information, and much more. To view all of the available commands without leaving the Interpreter session, we can execute the run command followed by the post path. Now, we can press the tab button twice in order to list all of the available scripts. As we can see, we are able to view all of the scripts available. For this example, we will use the Enumerate Applications module available under the post/windows/gather folder. Notice the path structure. The first folder indicates the type of the script. In this case, post-exploitation. The Windows folder specifies that the script targets Windows systems. The Gather directory contains all of the modules related to gathering information. Please keep in mind that the information gathering that takes place with these scripts is different from the information gathering phase on penetration testing. Here, we gather as much information as possible, as we already have access to the system. After running the module, we can see several applications installed on the system. There's an antivirus, a web browser, some social networking applications, and more. Another very useful module that helps us map the services on the system is the enum services. We just have to call the previous command and edit the enum applications to enum services. As we can see, not only are we able to view all of the available system services, but we can also check the username of the account that is running the process. A similar command that we can use to list all the processes running on the system is ps. ps requires no arguments, and we can see that it returns all of the available system processes. Moreover, we can also view every process ID. This is useful because we can perform actions like killing a process. If we look more closely, we can see a process named payload.exe file. This is the payload that was used to gain access to the vulnerable machine. Moreover, in the first column, we can see the current process ID. Notice that if we want to verify the current process ID of our session, we can run the getPID command. Process IDs can be useful to migrate our session to another process. This can be done in two ways. We can either use the script located in Post, Windows Manage, or we can simply type migrate into the prompt, followed by the new process ID we want to migrate to. Notice that if we execute migrate with the first method and we don't provide any process ID, it will automatically migrate to a process named notepad.exe. As we can see, the command succeeds. On the other hand, if we choose to use the migrate command, we will have to specify the process ID we'd like to migrate to. For this example, we'll migrate our process to svchost.exe, process with ID 4064. To do this, we call the migrate command, followed by the process ID we would like to use. Metasploit tells us that we have successfully migrated the payload. Now, let's move to some more straightforward examples. We'll use Meterpreter in order to capture the keystrokes of the vulnerable machine. To do this, we run the keyscan_start command and wait for the user to input some data. We'll fast forward the video a few minutes. We can now run keyscan_dump in order to view the keystrokes. As we can see, it looks like the victim has visited his online banking account and attempted to log in. Now, we can use the keyscan_stop to pause the keystroke capturing. Every attacker and penetration tester has to clean his traces from the remote system. For this reason, there is a command called clear-ev, which automatically tries to clear the system logs. We simply run clear-ev, and after its execution, we exit Meterpreter. In a situation where the exploit has no administrator privileges, a similar error will appear. In the rare cases where administrator privileges are available, we will be able to execute this command normally though. As we've seen, Metasploit offers a very wide range of features for different purposes. Some of them will focus on gathering system information, while some others focus on escalating in the system. We suggest you use Meterpreter and explore all of its options. Thanks for joining us.